As always, it was a big session for education. Here to give us the highlights is Kevin Richert of Idaho Education News. Kevin, what are the big education bills that passed?
Well, I think the biggest bill of them all was 521, House Bill 521, which is the school facilities plus law that went into effect. And I think the big question that we have right now is, how is that $1.5 billion of money that's going to go into school facilities, how is that going to unfold? How is that going to affect schools around the state? How is that money going to address some of the school building needs that we know have been just piling up over the years?
It's $1.5 billion over the next 10 years, and you said it was the School Facilities Plus bill. There were a lot of other policy topics contained in that bill. So that's not the only thing we're going to be watching as far as how this is going to be implemented.
Right. I mean, we have the annual round of income tax reduction that was part of House Bill 521. We also have the elimination of a school election date, the August school election date, and you have a lot more in this law. When you also factor in the follow-up language that came in the trailer bill that passed at the end of the legislative session, how is that going to affect the movement toward 4-day schools around the state? I think what lawmakers heard a lot over the course of the session was this outpouring of support for 4-day schools and for local control on the 4-day schools issue. You heard a lot of administrators and a lot of educators around the state, especially rural Idaho, saying, we like these 4-day calendars. And it's worth noting, this has been a rural issue for years, but you have Nampa considering it. They're going to vote next week on whether to go to a 4-day calendar. Coeur d'Alene has been looking at it. So now you're starting to see larger school districts around the state looking at the 4-day calendar.
And I believe Nampa would be the largest school district in the state that would.
Yes, that's correct.
If they
go through with it next week, they would be the largest district to make that move.
Other major education issues include launch after some tension and some uncertainty over whether it would get to the finish line.
A lot of debate about funding launch. What this means now is the funding is in place, so we should have about 9,000 grants, upwards of 9,000 grants going to high school seniors starting in July. This will be the implementation phase. It will be a chance for us to watch and for policymakers to watch and see, how is this money being spent? How are students using the money? Where are they going? I think what you heard this session was there's still some apprehension about launch. There's still some concerns about it. This is going to be one of these programs that I think legislators are probably going to keep tweaking at.
And as a reminder, launch is grants us up to $8,000 for graduating seniors for in-demand career training.
Right, and what it allows them to do is they can go to job training, they can go to community college, they can go to 4-year school. I think a lot of what we'll be watching for is, where exactly do these students go? Do they go into job training? Do they go to community college? Do they go to the 4-year schools? And what sort of impact does that have on these schools and these job training programs?
We've already discussed the library bill that went into effect. That, of course, does include public schools.
The stinking library bill.
I think
we have to clarify and give credit to your own Logan Finney to get that quote of the session. But yes, the library law is now in effect. And the big question now is, how is that going to affect public libraries, school libraries? What sort of impact are we going to see? I mean, we've had a 3-year debate about how this might affect libraries, how it might affect school libraries, what sort of chilling effect might it have. We'll see pretty soon what sort of on-the-ground effect this has.
Maybe not just a chilling effect on collections and what librarians are willing to put on the shelves, but also potentially recruitment and current employment for librarians, and maybe some discussions about how easy it's going to be to get insurance in the future if they have this liability.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of those kind of practical impacts that this may have on library operations. So. It feels like after we've been debating this so much over the past 3 years, now we see one way or the other. We'll see what sort of impact this is going to have.
What didn't make it to the finish line?
Well, school choice, for lack of a better term, and it's not an exact term. We had the $50 million proposal that would have siphoned public dollars into private school tax credits. That did not get out of the House Revenue and Taxation Committee. Similar legislation didn't get out of the House Education Committee in 2023. So there has been considerable opposition in these committees to these kind of proposals. After the session, House Speaker Mike Moyle had his annual press conference. Republican leadership had their press conference. I asked the speaker, what is the biggest thing that didn't get done this year? Because the speaker got most everything he wanted. What did he not get this session that he thinks is a high priority? He didn't skip a beat. He said school choice really has to be addressed, and said, I assure something will happen in 2025. This debate is a long way from being done.
Also, University of Phoenix, any sort of official oversight from the legislature?
Well, I think the legislature spoke pretty loudly that they did not feel comfortable about this purchase. They didn't feel like they knew enough, and they still had a lot of unanswered questions months after the announcement. This leaves the purchase very much in limbo.
All right, we'll keep following that. Kevin Richert of Idaho Education News, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Melissa.